Android is better than iOS, or is it? At least it used to be, until it started to destroy the very things that made it good in the first place. See, back in the day, Android used to be the fun one, with all the modded apps and custom ROMs and all the fun. It was chaotic, but like, the good kind of chaotic. Freedom was the whole point of it, that's why we chose Android. But something has changed and Google doesn't like freedom anymore, or fun. Sideloading? Scary, don't do it, bull. Spying on you and selling your personal information? Yes, please. Please steal my information. And spy on my wife. Console emulation on phones? No, that's way too much fun. Call the police right now. Copying Apple and becoming even worse? Of course, we love becoming a worse version of our competition. Okay, but what even is sideloading? So basically, if you go to the Google Play Store where all the apps are, that's called downloading or just installing. But if you download something somewhere else, like Google, that's called sideloading. A random app that a random guy made in his bedroom at 3 AM? Sideloading. Installing fun emulators that are not allowed to be on the Play Store? Sideloading. Apps that Google doesn't want you to have, like YouTube without ads? Sideloading. Getting games and other software for free on the internet? Well, I'm actually not allowed to say anything about that. But that's why we love Android, the freedom to download anything from anywhere. You took any sus website and you took the risk. If FBI comes knocking down your door, that's on you. It's fun, unlike iPhones. Can't really download anything from anywhere. However, Google recently announced that they're gonna need developer certification in order to download apps, including sideloading. And the reasoning was to protect people from malware and financial scams, starting on September 2026. But this is kind of where Androids start walking on the same path as iPhones. And it's also just another way of them saying, we don't trust you. With your own phone that you bought with your own money. And if Android doesn't trust us, then what even is the point of Android? The thing is, this affects the smaller creators, the indie developers, who just want to make niche apps and experiment with them. And they don't want to like show their identity, and they don't want to be stuck in this ecosystem where they could, Google could just wake up and be like, actually, we don't like you. Let's ban this guy. And this affects someone who's sideloading their own apps. So if you make an app and you want to test it, suddenly you can't because you're not a certified developer. The thing is, when you take away all of this freedom, suddenly your phone doesn't really feel like a computer anymore. It's more like a console where it's just like, here's what you have and this is what you're allowed to do. Also, the whole certification thing isn't about protecting you, it's more about accountability. So if you download something, you can still get a virus. All it means is that Google has someone to blame. So you get a virus and they're like, well, here's the whole LinkedIn page of this guy, but like it doesn't do anything, it doesn't protect you from anything. Google says it's to prevent spreading harm, but the thing is, when you sideload something, there's clearly a warning that this might be unsafe, but instead of Google trusting us with this common sense knowledge, their solution is just to remove it and call it a day. Like, you don't have a choice anymore because we don't trust you. Now, I know that most people don't just sit there downloading and testing random apps all day, but the one big thing that actually suffers, that matters, is emulation. So if you didn't know, emulation is basically you being able to download or sideload an emulator, such as a PSX2, and it lets you emulate the PS2 hardware on your phone, which means any games that you own or you find online, I'm not supposed to tell you that, you can run those games on your phone. However, I love doing that. Emulators lie in the legal gray area because the emulator itself is legal, but the games that you might need to run on the emulators can be legal. For example, if you don't own the game and you find it online, that is illegal. And if you think about it, who legally owns a PS2 game? 99% of people are just gonna find it illegally online, which is why it makes those emulators a higher risk. They're more likely to be flagged down and be associated with something illegal. And this could hurt the community because if the developers need to be certified by Google, then they're gonna be less likely to make those emulators, update them, and just keep them running. The thing is, this might not affect the majority of people, it might just be a small percentage of people, but those people made a clear decision why they're sticking to Android. It's because of this whole advantage. So if they don't have that, that makes it so easy just to switch over to iPhones, since it's like the same thing now. But here's a plot twist. Apple is actually becoming slightly better with the software and hardware and the EU regulations. For the longest time, the biggest advantage that Android had was how fun it was. You could express yourself, custom wallpapers, custom icons, so much customization. But recently, Apple is kind of catching up, because if you think about it, now you can do custom default apps, you can change the icons, you can have always on display. Most of the things that Android has is slowly coming to Apple, and it's not always Apple's decision, but it's still moving in the right direction. And the one big problem that I used to have with iPhones back in the day was the fact that you had to use that stupid lightning cable when literally everything in the house was USB-C. And then the EU regulations were like, bro, move, stop using that World War II cable. Use USB-C, and since then, Apple has had to use USB-C. But then, a couple months ago, the EU regulations did another right hook. That's a left hook, but they're forcing Apple to allow notifications from third-party apps. So say if you have a third-party watch, it will actually show up on the iPhone. It will also force alternatives to AirDrop, so you can actually use it on Android perhaps. And it's also gonna have better headphone integration. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know Apple had all of these super strict restrictions. Like if you try to use anything outside the Apple ecosystem, they were basically just gonna throw you off the bridge like, no. Don't do that. Obviously, again, it wasn't Apple's decision. They're not really happy about it, but I find it kind of ironic how Apple is kind of becoming better and Android is slowly becoming worse. Am I gonna have to switch to an iPhone now? I hope not. But man, that iPhone 17 Pro is looking sexy as hell recently. Obviously, not to say that Apple is amazing now. I think both companies kind of suck in their own ways, but it's kind of blurring the line. Like, and what's getting worse is that a lot of the Android phone companies are copying Apple more and more now. Like for example, last year we had the Xiaomi 15, the 15 Pro and the 15 Ultra, and this year they decided to skip the Xiaomi 16 and instead they made the Xiaomi 17 Pro and the 17 Pro Max. They did that to align with Apple's numbers and to make it sound like they're exactly the same phone. Like they did not even try to hide that. Or if you look at some S26 Ultra leaked photos, one of the colors is apparently a bright orange, which is literally the same as the 17 Pros. Like, why the heck are we copying colors now? That's not even a good thing to copy. Or how the OnePlus 15 loses the alert slider, the one feature that people loved over all these years, and they're replacing it with a button which is basically like an action button from the iPhone 16. This is like the perfect example of, no, you can't have Apple, we have Apple at home. If I want an iPhone, I'll just buy an iPhone. Also, I was looking at this the other day. The Pixel 10 is $799, which is the same price as the base iPhone 17. That doesn't even make sense. The Pixel has a slower CPU, it has worse specs, so why the hell is it the same price? Isn't iPhone supposed to be the overpriced one? And speaking of the Google Pixel, damn, they're just deep-throating us with AI now, and every company have their own versions of AI, like Google has the Gemini AI, Samsung's have the Galaxy AI, and now OnePlus has the Oxygen OS 16. You want to take down some notes? AI. You accidentally tap and hold the bottom of the screen? AI. You're trying to take a photo and AI tells you exactly how to do it, like, oh, you're taking a picture of a dog. No. Rotate the dog 45 degrees so that the light reflects off of his... Shut up. Let me take a picture of my dog exactly how I want it. If it turns out bad, that is on me. That is my picture. Stop controlling me. Powered by AI, designed by AI, blessed by AI. Meanwhile, the actual hardware improvements are non-existent. They're gonna say that AI will improve your life, but they will charge you for literally everything. Everything will just be a membership. An even bigger problem is privacy, because Google owns Android and everything that you do, stuff on the Play Store, that all gets sold off. All your information gets, I don't know, it goes somewhere. And since you're forced to use the Google services, you feel like you don't have a choice. And why do you think it's free? It's because you're the product. They're selling you. So I watched this video recently by PewDiePie, and he's basically saying that he's done with Google and he's trying to de-Google his phone. And his way of doing that was basically to install a custom ROM on his phone called Graphene OS, which focuses on stuff like privacy and security, which is for people who don't trust Google or basically anyone. It's basically like stock Android, but it doesn't have any of the Google Play services, which means they can't sniff your data and do stuff with it. It might be a little bit tricky to install for new, unexperienced people, and officially only works on Pixels, which is kind of ironic because you need a Google phone to get away from Google. So yeah, Android is kind of falling apart. Privacy is dead. AI is taken over. It's telling you what to do. Freedom is gone. But maybe this isn't the end of Android. If the Android phone manufacturers don't save Android, well, maybe the modders will. And maybe eventually everyone's just gonna start using custom ROMs to save themselves and avoid Google. The same people who rooted their HTC phone back in 2012 with Cyanogen OS, I think that's what it's called, those modders are still here. And with projects such as Graphene OS and Lineage OS, they could put in the effort and rebuild Android to what it should have been and what it should be right now. And then you have a phone that's yours. It belongs to you. And if Android stops being Android, if they close down and make it a closed source project and take away our freedom, that is no longer Android. The whole industry isn't even going to be about new phones and hardware. Everything is going to be about AI and subscriptions. But remember this, if it gets any worse, you always have the option to root or get a custom ROM and you'll be saved. Or I guess you could just buy an iPhone or a dumb phone, I don't know.